We need to talk about K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yes, please. I've been listening to the soundtrack all day. I literally have Idol stuck in my head right now. But honestly, I hate to say it, I think Soda Pop might be my favorite.
Oh, it's my
It's
least
really
favorite song in the
catchy.
entire album. My coworker was wandering around all day just going, oh, it's dun, dun, dun. Just all day at like just that line. And like every time she'd walk past and do that, I would immediately go and start ba 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 ba. And finally our other coworker was like, can one of you just play the full song, please? And I was like, what, you don't want to hear us just singing the same line over and over again?
There is a law in my house that is designed specifically to oppress me, where I am not allowed to play the same song out loud more than once in a 24-hour period, because Miles gets them stuck in their head really bad, and then it just becomes an impossible ADHD brainworm. So I get it, but also I'm the type of person who will just listen to a song on repeat for a very, very, very long time. So like maybe I want to listen to the same 5 songs on loop for 4 hours. I have to do that in secret.
Yeah, I do. So I do like, I need to have variation in the music I listen to. But in this case, I have listened to How It's Done at least 20 times in the last 3 days.
The thing about How It's Done is that I love women. I love women so much. I think that's all I need. No, but it's so fucking good because you sent me the clip because you were talking about K-pop Demon Hunter so much, and I was like, okay, I'll bite. I'll check this out because, as we know, listeners, Ryn has good taste in media, and the things that you like, I tend to also like. But I'm not a big movie person, and I have never listened to K-pop besides just like, the amount that you absorb by being a person in society. So you sent me the How It's Done clip, and then it was chef's kiss immediately. But then when I saw the twist that there was also a rival demon boy band, I was fucking sold. I was like, this is the best thing ever. And I have gone on record many times on this show and also in book club. I like when things do the thing that they say they're going to do. If they deliver on their promise. The promise in this title is K-pop Demon Hunters, and it fucking delivers. It is amazing. And I'm sure that you have more structured thoughts, but I freaking love it. I'm obsessed. I have the brainworms. I am now following the Polytrix tag on Tumblr and Blue Sky.
I'm sorry, the what now?
That's the ship name for the 3 of them is Polytrix.
Oh, I love it. I mean,
which is really cute.
They're a new OTP or OT3 for me.
I mean, absolutely. You can mix and match those girls any way you want, or no ways. That's fine. They're so shippable, and they're tortured, and they have their little feelings, and they're also feral and weird, and they're just like the best girls. They're the best girls.
Well,
I love
them. And you pointed out that Rumi's eyeliner is in the bisexual flag colors.
Yeah, in the bi pride colors in the correct order and the correct tone and hue. There is absolutely no way to mistake that for anything other than fully intentional. And I mean, I saw it immediately. And, there's no reason for it in the scene. It's, her color palette is very purple, but it's not something that would happen accidentally. It's definitely 1,000% on purpose. And I had to stop the movie and rewind and go back to take a screenshot because I was so excited.
I also got very, and this is in part because it's me, there's very, very, like, first of all, their storylines in general are very queer.
Mm-hmm.
They all have their Saja boy, or in Mira's case, Saja boys.
As
that
she
like
deserves.
We're meant to be like, yes, they're cute together. The Saja boys are really one-dimensional to me. Even Ginu, like, I don't care.
I think that's kind of the whole point, is that they are,
yeah,
pun intended, soulless. They are very, another pun intended, one note, one might say. And that is the entire point of them, contrasted against our dynamic, fascinating Huntrix girls. Also, Huntrix is a kick-ass name. It's so cool.
No, it's really fucking solid, and the stylization where the eye is like a backslash.
Yes, that's so good.
I know nothing about K-pop. I listen to a lot of different kinds of music. We've mentioned I'm a musician on this podcast. I know jack fuck about K-pop. I know jack fuck about a lot of pop music, and especially about K-pop. So I hear and I understand from reading over the last few days that there are a lot of like various references to K-pop, and within how it's done, there's like 4 different lines that are direct references to other popular K-pop songs,
Mm-hmm.
apparently. And I, didn't pick up on any of that shit.
Fair.
Because I know nothing about K-pop. But like, if you, like Sam and I, know nothing about K-pop, it is still an incredible movie. Same studio that did the Spider-Verse movies, so it is visually just gorgeous.
And you can really tell that it has soul and is made with love. It's not just empty 3D husks bouncing around a screen. Because I think that we definitely had a period of very empty 3D animation that just didn't have like the heart of 2D animation. And I think that now more mainstream studios are starting to hit their stride with making it fun and stylized. And it's not about being as hyper realistic as possible. It's very silly.
I will say how It's Done is definitely my favorite song. I like Golden a lot. And if you don't cry during What It Sounds Like, but I think the point I was getting at was, so they all have like very sort of queer notes to their storylines,
Mhm.
but I think Mira and Rumi especially have kind of very trans storylines too.
Mhm.
There's some undertones and to like the way they're portrayed, the way they're talked about, that is it's very transcoded.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily think they were meant to be, but particularly Rumi's demon storyline
Mhm.
is very transcoded. It's very, don't let them in, don't let them see. Then you get into the whole bit of she never wants to go to the bathhouse with the other two,
Mhm.
so they've, in their entire lives have never actually seen her naked.
Yeah.
Whole thing there. Mira's speaking voice is also just so like husky and deep and wonderful.
Mhm.
And Mira is also, of course, just like tall and sassy and
Amazing. The fit check for my Napalm era, like the face that she's making, the way that she's like sitting on like the rocket or whatever it is, and
like
like
on the demon.
oh, that she's an ethereal. I'm gay.
No,
I
I
don't.
mean,
Yes,
that whole section, heels, nails, blade, mascara.
incredible.
I love, how quickly they go from incredibly fast English wordplay to Korean to well enunciated, slow, like focused words.
Mhm.
You go from nothing to us, run up, you're done up, we come up from sun up to sundown, so come out to play, one either way, we're 1 in a million, we kill him, like really, you want it, okay, to heels, nails, blade, mascara. Uh, let's make sure you can hear every individual word here.
Yes.
I've watched that scene more than I've watched any other scene in the movie. The way that Rumi opens that scene, it just like flashes in on her eyes. You're like, and she's just like, oh, fuck this.
And I've seen so many gifs of the little hand gesture that she makes flicking her fingers out, and it's like, go, my girlfriends, and then they run. It's just like they're like dogs that have been unleashed and told that they can go chase bunnies. They're like, yes, 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 let's go.
Well, and I slowed the scene down to watch each of them do their thing.
Mhm.
Because Rumi's doing the slow villain walk.
Mhm.
Almost there. That's the you are so fucked when I get to you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let you anticipate every moment of it. Well, in the meantime, like Zoe is doing the Black Widow move where she, comes up. I've also seen it called like the Gams of Steel or something. It's a common move in a lot of movies with fighting women fighting larger men.
Mhm.
Because, using your legs is still feminine because we can't have women use upper body strength to defeat the larger man, which is
Clearly not.
fair, I guess. But yeah, doing the like leap, climb, tackle them around the neck with her legs, bring them to the ground, and then break the arm. Whereas Mira's over on the other side doing the high kick, take them down, kick them down, and then just go in and beat their face. It's so perfect. And the badass look on Rumi's face when she falls backwards out of the plane.
Which is just your D&D character to a T. This is, I think both of our D&D characters would love this movie, K-pop in general, the Huntrix girls specifically. They would want to be their best friends. Sahar and Rumi, I mean, they're even both purple. It's
also the tiger and the magpie.
Yes, I love them so much. Little meh. Hello, friend.
the little meh, and the tiger has the invite on its tongue.
As somebody who's really into stationery right now, I want those little note cards with the duck that say hello, friend. I would buy those. And then I could use them to write notes. Oh my god, and then save the date, and then she makes the comment to Gino because he's interpreting it literally and saying, oh, it's a date? You said save the date. She goes, oh, I forget you're from the 1900s. And then me, being born in the 1900s, going, oh god, she could be born in the year 2000 and be 25. She might canonically be younger. She's a pop star. They're young.
I know they're in I believe they're canonically in their early 20s. I know Rumi's the oldest of the three of them, canonically, and I think they're all under 26.
Which now also, as an aging millennial, I feel like a fucking creep lusting after these cartoon women. Like, oh no, you're too young for me. There's so much I want to say about K-pop Demon Hunters. It's so good.
It's really, really excellent. I think my other little favorite bit, my favorite bit with Gino, because largely I don't really give a shit about him.
That's fair.
Other than like your idol has, as our friend Patrick / Gungus has said, it has gravitas.
It's so toxic in a fun way.
Yeah, there's also a little bit in the lyrics at the beginning, because they're chanting "Pray for me now" at the beginning, and then there's the Latin, the Dies Irae, but it's the words they use are not the actual Dies Irae.
Ooh, spicy.
So the original, supposedly, according to the piece I was seeing, translates to "the day of wrath. That day will dissolve the world in ashes." What they use, Dies irae illa vos sove in favilla, maledictus eras in flammas aeternum, is the day of wrath. That day you will turn to ashes. Cursed, I will burn forever.
Oh no, that's so sad.
Just
Magic
highlighting
voice.
Yeah.
And one of them is named Abby because he has abs. And that's his whole bit is that he has abs, which is very good. And they're doing signings and he's just doing like a texture rubbing of the pencil on his abs so it makes an impression and giving that.
Oh, yes. But the my favorite piece about them is when Rumi asks Gino about the magpie's hat. And he just goes, I made it for the tiger, which explains nothing.
Yeah.
And that's all we get. It's just, I made it for the tiger. Move on.
Just imagining him sewing a tiny hat for the tiger. It's so good. As soon as I saw a bird with tiny hat and Rumi going, it's a bird with a tiny hat, I was immediately in love. I didn't know or care what it was. It's going, no, it's my baby. I love this bird and I love this tiger and they're so stupid.
They're so wonderful. They are apparently a very common theme in Korean folk art, and I'm not going to comment anymore on that because I don't know any more than I've read over the last 2 days, and anybody listening to this podcast can also find that.
You should Google it because all the tigers look like that, and it's really fun.
Like that's why they animated it like that, is because that's what it looks like in the pop art. The magpies don't all have 3 eyes, but
or tiny hats, but
or tiny hats,
have everything.
tragically. Yeah. I could talk about this forever. I could talk about the fact that their ramen cups have their names on them, and then Mira's says Spice Queen, Rumi's says Superstar Flavor, and Zoe's says Hamburger, which, like, she's American, we get it. I could talk about this forever, but I think we should also talk about Murderbot. How do you feel about talking about Murderbot?
I would love nothing more.
Mirror, mirror on my phone, who's the baddest? Us. Hello, everyone.
Well done, bestie.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Fandom Apprentice. Thank you for indulging us in our slightly longer than normal Outfront media review. I haven't been that obsessed with a movie or a show in a long time.
That's a pretty high bar.
Yeah. I was obsessed with West Wing, but like not to the same level. But hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Fandom Apprentice. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Ryn. I am a lifelong nerd. I grew up on all sorts of fantasy and sci-fi in various formats, and I have made it my life's work to inflict various forms of media onto my friends so I have somebody to yell about it with.
Hello, I'm Sam. I'm the other one. I'm here to do the other half of the yelling. Today we are starting on the first novel in the Murderbot Diaries series by Martha Wells, Network Effect. And this one we are going to be splitting up across multiple episodes because it is a whole ass novel, so it's pretty long. And today we're going to cover chapters 1 through 3.
Yeah, so we'll get a little deeper into this, I guess, than we have gotten into the novellas, which I guess just to start us right off, if we thought Murderbot was a snarky bitch earlier, we have seen nothing yet. The extra length lets Martha Wells like really delve into just how much of an asshole Murderbot is.
But, you know, it keeps it in check to an extent.
It's fair. And I forgot, like, right out the gate, I think I texted you right when I started rereading this with, I forgot that this book is just banger line after banger line.
Mm-hmm.
The first paragraph alone. I've had clients who thought they needed an absurd level of security, and I'm talking absurd even by my standards. And my code was developed by a bond company known for intense xenophobic paranoia, tempered only by desperate greed. I've also had clients who thought they didn't need any security at all, right up until something ate them. That's mostly a metaphor. My uneaten client stat is high. Where do you go from there?
Only up, or in this case down, into the water. I did adapt a little bit of formatting from our novella episodes and just did a little short summary of each chapter, as opposed to the sort of line by line pick through that we did for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So if you want to just quickly broad strokes over chapter 1, and then we can get more into it.
Sweet.
So we open with Dr. Arata, who we haven't seen in quite a while, and Thiago, who's Mensa's brother-in-law. They are doing some kind of science. Murderbot is swimming under a raider vessel. They're in the ocean, which is exciting. The raiders are rudely trying to board the Prezox Sea Research Facility. Murderbot got shot and is making the most of being in the water, picking through raiders on the boat while Thiago negotiates with the ones who've already boarded their vessel. There's a little bit of drama because Thiago doesn't trust Murderbot, but Mensa insisted that it come on this survey because it's the only person who she trusts with her daughter, who is also there. And then Arata shoots a guy dead.
He survives. Oh,
I thought she shot him dead.
No, she shot him. She shot him in the arm. And then she asked Murderbot in chapter 2, basically, is he going to live? And Murderbot was like, if they treat him, yeah, sure, probably.
Fair. I guess I just got overly excited about her firing a gun. I was so dazzled that I didn't even notice where the shot went.
I feel like, yeah, SecUnit this whole chapter is in rare form with both snark and with making things sound sci-fi generic, which just shows us, it's showing us how much it doesn't care about the specifics. I swam up from under the stern, careful to avoid the propulsion device. okay, propeller, jet.
Yeah.
But then, so they're in like an ocean planet doing research. Murderbot talks about how like they'd been approached slowly by 2 previous vessels and traded some supplies with them. And it knew that this vessel, the way that it approached, was definitely doing so with hostile intent, or there was a 72% chance it was doing so with hostile intent.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Murderbot gets on the murderboat and more or less, disables the attacking force. I love that everyone is gay.
That is beautiful to me.
Just, we have Mensa has got herself a wife and a spouse. Tiago has got himself at least one husband, being Mensa's brother.
Mm-hmm.
Arata's got Oversay. They're just all gay.
And I don't know what the fuck is happening on Stupid Boat. So the boat that the Raiders are on and that Murderbot is infiltrating, it refers to as Stupid Boat. And it's trying to get any kind of useful information off of Stupid Boat. It says, Stupid Boat had its own rudimentary feed that was heavy with games and pornography, but light on anything that might be helpful for a security assessment, like who these people were and what they wanted. Even the individual human's feed signatures only contained info about sexual availability and gender presentation, which I didn't give a damn about. So what is this boat on this empty ocean planet where everyone's just fucking but also raiding other ships? Very unclear what is happening here.
Yeah, they're an orchestra.
Something is going over my head, and I don't get it.
It's full of sax and violins.
But isn't a saxophone not in a classical orchestra? Didn't you tell me that once?
Yeah, they're not. They're typically no, unless they're needed for a specific piece. But listen, I had to make the joke.
It was very good. And I was thinking, okay, well, maybe Stupid Boat got taken over by the Raiders and now they're using it for some reason, but it doesn't seem like that's the case.
No, well, in Stupid Boat, it's kind of glossed over, but it sounds like Stupid Boat like has, or as I was calling it this whole time, the Murderboat has a big like anti-ship weapon on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's designed to be generally evil. I think the idea here is that the idea here is to sort of be like, the Raiders were not intellectual geniuses who were set to take over the world. They're kind of just interested in, short-term pleasure and taking shit from other people they come across.
That's fair.
Which, not that like sex correlates to general degeneracy, but I feel like that's one, that's kind of Murderbot's interpretation, and two, that's how I guess the best interpretation is for this, I suppose, which is, the Raiders, like that's their, the games and pornography are sort of their general wind down when they're not doing piracy.
Mm-hmm.
They're pirates. That's
standard
space
pirate stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we've all seen, nope, I can't even finish that because I haven't seen, what's the HBO one with the gay pirates?
I don't know. That's the fuck. Now it's killing me because I can see it in my mind. It has the guy with the incredible robe that all the cosplayers want to make.
Which with Taika Waititi plays Blackbeard.
Yeah. Well,
our flag means death.
There we go.
I've also watched, Black Sails, which also has so much sex and violence, but is much more serious. And I've tried a couple of times, but man, that first season is rough to get through. Anyway, pirates.
So that makes sense that that's what the deal is with Stupid Boat. That tracks.
Yeah, they're pirates.
Mm-hmm. I also love that even though we are dealing with pirates with giant anti-ship weapons, that honestly doesn't feel like it's the main driving stressor in this situation. Those don't feel like the main stakes. The main stake, the thing that Murderbot is really concerned about, is Arata's apparently nuclear level sad eyes. Let me find. Thiago was standing out on said observation deck, the deck of their research vessel, trying to reason with a potential target. That's potential, per the earlier conversation where Dr. Arata said, "Oh, SecUnit, I wish you wouldn't call people targets." And there's just so much where it's constantly referencing, I could kill this person. It would make sense for me to kill this person. But if I did, then Arata would make a sad face.
And Tiago would be pissed off.
But I think we know which one it cares more about.
Oh, definitely. The sad eyes are the problem.
But I do love that that's the main thing that we're really worried about, is we just don't want to make Arata sad.
Which is just wonderful. There's the other piece, because it's jumping around a little bit in timeline here when it gets shot initially and falls into the water, and Oversay is yelling at it like, "Are you okay?" And it's like, it literally says, "I've got everything under fucking control." Which just shows us how comfortable it's gotten with Prezox and the like Prezox survey group. It's kept its swearing, like, because it swears all the time, but it's kept that mostly internal for the last few books. But now it's openly like, no, fuck this. Yeah. Fuck you. Fuck them.
I still get a hard currency card no matter how many times I say fuck.
Which I have more commentary on that in chapter 2. Anyway.
Oh, absolutely. I also just love seeing more. I mean, like I said up top, we haven't seen Arata in a while. It's fun to see her more because she is the leader of this survey. And she obviously shoots the raider guy. And I like that we're seeing ways that other members of Prezox are affected by their experiences with Grey Chris. And Arata takes a weapons course. And Murderbot says, "I guess having a bunch of murderers chasing you around a planet so they can suppress your research by murdering you would tend to make you more cautious, even if you are a terminal optimist." So as funny as that is, and that's another just banger line from Murderbot, the terminal optimist of the group, sweet, sunny, nice Arata, is ready to shoot a man because she has been so fucked up by her experiences.
Yeah, which specifically the terminal optimist is what her wife calls her.
And this is the book where it's revealed that they are married. It does not, we know that they're in a relationship prior to this, but this is the one.
We know that they're marital partners, I thought.
No, I am like 100% certain that in All Systems Red, it does not say that they're married.
I'm 100% certain it says that they were marital partners, but
I'm checking because I feel
you have the text.
Because I remember reading this book for the first time and going, "Oh my god, they're married." So let's Control F for Oversay. Yep, all it says is Oversay and Arata were a couple, but from the way they acted, they'd always been one, and they were best friends with Rathi. It says that they are a couple. Win. This is the book where it says they're married. I do win.
You win.
And I'm happy for them. Because were they married this whole time? Did they get married in between the events of All Systems Red and now? Murderbot doesn't know and doesn't care, but I care.
Yeah, Murderbot doesn't give a single shit about human relationships. We, however, do. Just because we're anarchists about relationships doesn't mean that we don't like them. That's actually kind of the reason we're anarchists about them.
More relationship.
Love is abundant and every relationship is unique and
slap
wonderful.
SecUnit. Well, I can't slap SecUnit because it would not let me survive slapping it. But for the purposes of the meme, slap SecUnit, this bad boy can fit so many relationships in it.
It does. There's another piece where it overhears Oversay talking to somebody else. And Oversay's like, yes, it's fine. Yes, of course it's pissed. And I love how comfortable they've all gotten with each other. As much as SecUnit is still kind of trying to hold itself at arm's length, the rest of the team has gotten to know it a lot better, and it's gotten to know the rest of the team.
Yeah. And then just narratively to inject some drama and inject some tension into the scenario where otherwise we might get a little too comfortable, we have Thiago, who does not trust Murderbot. Their relationship is very difficult. I think we'll get more into that maybe in chapter 2. But he is one of those people who doesn't really understand why Mensa needs a SecUnit, why this SecUnit specifically feels threatened, feels uncomfortable. Like their relationship is just very tense. And we get a little recording of a conversation between Mensa and Thiago where she's saying, SecUnit's great. I trust it with my daughter. In fact, if you don't let SecUnit go, I'm not going to let Amina go. And we'll talk about Amina as well because I fucking love her.
I fucking love Amina.
But then she says, of course it has its faults. In fact, it's probably listening to us right now. Are you listening, SecUnit? Me on the feed. What? No.
First, I guess, other question. Thiago or Tiago? I thought it was Tiago.
I think it probably is Tiago, and I'm probably just saying it wrong because I have not been listening to the audiobook for this one. I've been reading the text. So my names are perhaps not all accurate. But yes, I think it is Tiago. I think you're right. Also, Mensa's other marital partner, I also...
Farai and Tano.
Tano. I always want to say Tano, but it's Tano. But anything else for chapter 1?
I don't think so. Just while we're on the subject of, fight scenes being works of art, this one's solid.
Yeah.
Especially when you bring in all of its little like bits of commentary on like where it consciously pulls back its response.
Mm-hmm.
Because, part of it taking care of the Prezox team is also taking care of the fact that they don't like to be directly responsible for death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't want to kill indiscriminately. Later in chapter 2, it talks about how Rothy's never seen it kill anyone up close, and it really wants to keep it that way. And we've talked before about it not wanting to traumatize its humans more than necessary. So that's nice.
Chapter 2?
Yes, chapter 2. So chapter 2, we get a little bit more context that this mission is Murderbot's first time working survey security fully as itself, not pretending to be an augmented human or having an augmented human supervisor or whatever. It is just fully out and proud as a Murderbot. Arata feels really bad about shooting that guy. We get teased with the introduction of something called helpme.file, which we will talk a lot more about as the book goes on.
Oh, yes.
And then most of this chapter is a flashback to a scene from some kind of big festival on preservation, some kind of film, arts, cute thing.
Yeah, art festival / conference / religious observance.
Yeah, all that stuff. And we get a lot of information about Mensa and her family. Her adult family members are very wary of Murderbot, but her kids love it, except maybe Amina. We'll talk about that too. Murderbot and Mensa have a big feelings talk. Mensa's afraid to go off station without Murderbot, and 99% of people in her life don't understand why. And Mensa says that she hates feeling weak and wants to feel more independent, basically. And so then we close out on the feelings chat. But this is the chapter that I have the most on. I think it's super interesting.
Oh, I have so much on this chapter.
Yeah, where do you want to start?
I think just chronologically. Mensa lures, which is Murderbot's words, lures it down to the planet with promises of live performances at the art festival / conference / religious observance. And when it questions how many performances is a lot of live performances, that's apparently 87 plus. And it will manage to see or record 32 plays and musicals with drones while Mensa is otherwise occupied.
So good.
There is also, so before we get into this flashback is part of helpme.file excerpt 1. It says, file detached from main narrative. What is this? What does it mean? We'll find out eventually. And the other beginning part is again the piece immediately following, because it turns out the research facility they were on is able to get into orbit on its own. So it launches into orbit and, nearly swamps stupid boat. And there's, debrief with Arata, debrief with Rothy, debrief with Tiago. And there were a couple lines I wanted to highlight from its debrief, a couple of debriefs.
Yeah.
Which was with Arata, because Arata comes up and basically is like, did I kill him? Even though she took the weapons course, even though like she was willing to shoot this guy, she still doesn't want to have killed him.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells her, if his, people treat him, he might be okay. It says, I lie to humans a lot, but not to Arata. not about this.
Yeah.
It cares about her.
And she even says, "Are you trying to make me feel better?" And says, "I would never try to make you feel better. You know what I'm like."
Her expression had turned all melty and sentimental. No hugging, I warned her. It was in our contract. Do you need emotional support? Do you want me to call someone? Which is a translation, please go hug your wife and leave me out of it. Thank you.
So good.
Um,
But you know, she's got to try. She's got to unleash those nuclear level puppy dog eyes. Maybe not that we encourage pushing against people's very clearly contractually outlined boundaries, but it is still very cute.
And then, it talks to Rati, and Rati's like, well, you did your best sort of thing. And Murderbot's like, Rati doesn't know how much I fuck people up, and I'm going to keep it that way because I want to preserve his glorious puppy dog innocence. And Tiago comes up but doesn't apologize. This is sort of we see again the little heads butting because Tiago got Murderbot shot.
Yeah.
By explicitly ignoring the security protocols that were established and that apparently everyone agreed to.
In advance, in all caps.
Well, and the first thing he asks is, because he eventually does say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get you shot. But the first thing he says is, did you kill them? Which immediately shuts SecUnit down. Because SecUnit, that whole previous chapter, yeah, it was commenting a lot about how Arata would be sad, but also is I don't want to care about Tiago's opinion, but I do actually care about Tiago's opinion, and I'm trying not to hurt these people. And it just shuts it down and basically is if you want to think I'm a monster, you can think I'm a monster and go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Basically. I'm not going to dissuade you, and that's if you want to think I'm the monster, that I'll be that monster. But back to preservation and the art festival / conference / religious observance.
Which sounds really lovely. It sounds busy, but well managed. There's a designated quiet area for people who are camping and actually want to sleep. There's a designated loud area for people who want to party. And it even has a magical sci-fi sound buffer so they can just have fun doing their thing. There's little go-karts for everyone. People have little sparkler toys and colored powders, and there's nice serene floating lights. It sounds awesome. This sounds like a very cool performance / conference / religious observance. I'd go to it.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. But midway through one of the musicals, Mensa asks it to come get her and bring her home. And it's that's weird and possibly bad. And her insistence is, oh, I'm just tired. And it shows up, and Mensa's mid-panic attack / PTSD flashback / flare. That's the issue here is, SecUnit notices something's wrong. Two, I think we get a little more on Farai here, too, because Tiago's the one pushing Mensa's buttons here and being you need to talk to us. And Farai literally says, Tiago, no, she asks for space. You need to give that to her. She smiled at me politely. I never knew how to react to that. She leaned into Mensa to kiss her and said, we'll see you at the house. Farai also, later on, there's another, again, jumping around the timeline. Farai, when she first meets Murderbot, asks what Murderbot's relationship with Mensa is. And Murderbot's answer is, I'm her SecUnit. And Farai goes, what does that mean? And Murderbot's basically fuck if I know. I would love to know. If you figure it out, tell me.
Yeah, I also had highlighted that line because I don't know what information she was looking for. What kind of answer did she what was the information to be gained from that question? It's a really interesting question, and that is sort of the central tension of Murderbot and Mensa's whole relationship. So there's a lot there, but why does Farai want to know? Why is that the question that she's choosing to ask?
I think what she's trying to get is, are you trauma bonded to my wife / are you trying to take advantage of the fact that she's had trauma? Are you trying to hurt her, or have you unhealthily imprinted on her? And SecUnit's answer basically tells her no. to all those questions. And Fry's like, all right, cool. You're not going to hurt my wife. That's what I care about.
Yeah.
And anything else is between you and her.
That is, she's doing her due diligence, and we appreciate that.
Yeah. You got to protect the people you love. And sometimes you got to let them deal with their shit on their own.
I also love, obviously the I'm her SecUnit is kind of an evasion of the question. But, as people who love a non-normative relationship structure, I also love that just being an answer is I'm her SecUnit. Our relationship is SecUnit and client, clearly. What is there to understand?
I had a job here. I get paid in hard currency cards and everything.
Exactly.
Which my other thought with that is we know how preservation thinks about currency. And at the moment, how much use Murderbot has for currency, it's basically meaningless.
Yeah, it's basically monopoly money. You want hard currency? Okay.
Yeah, but it means something to Murderbot. And so, I think Mensa, as head of the Preservation Council, and the rest of the Preservation Council are kind of like, well, yeah, sure. Fuck it.
Yeah, because it's not getting paid in company script. It could at any time leave with an accumulation of money that it's gotten in fair exchange for its work. And it always has that to fall back on, which, it may in the future need to do. But it's another symbol of its free will, basically.
With this conversation, I have a lot of questions about Tiago and his relationship to Mensa and the rest of the family. Because we don't meet Mensa's brother anywhere here.
Yeah.
So and Tiago is Mensa's brother's husband. And Tiago seems to be the one who's the most vocally like, hey, you need to talk to us. You need to figure this out. Like, what's going on here? Farai and Tano are clearly worried about their wife, but they're not pushing her in the way that Tiago is. Clearly, the fact that Mensa's brother is not here, he's also not pushing her. So, what the fuck's Tiago's deal?
Yeah, he definitely seems a bit insecure about Murderbot. I think that, we see it explicitly that he feels like Mensa insisting on Murderbot's presence on the survey specifically is implying that he can't take care of his own niece and that, he needs a SecUnit to babysit him or whatever. And so he feels threatened by that. But I think potentially also in general, he may feel a little bit on the outside of the family structure. I am casting my mind all the way back to a sophomore year gender studies lecture where we were talking about aunts and gender roles and family dynamic and the aunt as this symbolic outsider who doesn't fully have the mother's power and authority and respect, and so is always being a little bit underhanded. So in media you have a lot of evil aunts, sketchy aunties. There's a lot of weird power play stuff and insecurity in media about aunts and uncles specifically. Fascinating. I wish I remembered more of it. But there may be some of that there, that because he's not part of this immediate family unit, he's not the spouse, he's not one of the kids, he's the brother-in-law, and he and Mensa obviously have a very close relationship. But he may, and this is just wild spitballing, this is not anywhere in the text, this is just my brain.
Let's go.
He may be trying to compensate for that insecurity that he feels by inserting himself more aggressively than he needs to be like, I'm also part of this, I'm here, I'm involved, and worrying that maybe if he doesn't do that, he might lose some closeness or standing in Mensa's eyes or something. It seems completely unnecessary because everyone around him is like, dude, just give her space, she will be okay. So that's my thought, but that is also based on nothing.
Several chapters down the line, he mentions being friends with Tano when they were both young and going to school together. And so it's possible maybe they're all old college friends or something too. That's a distinct possibility, is they all knew each other growing up. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's reading later on, I was trying to remember, like, what the fuck is his relationship to all of them? Like, he's not married to Mensa. Is he Tano's brother? Is he Mensa's brother? And then went back and read the first page and was like, oh, no, wait, he's Mensa's brother-in-law, which
Mhm.
makes it weirder that he is so invested to me in all
Yeah.
of this.
I like the old college friends angle too, because then especially that kind of meshes with the insecurity angle of now the college friends have gone on and formed this unit that he's not part of.
Mm-hmm.
There could be
Mm-hmm.
juicy things there.
There is the other piece where Murderbot's also wondering if the issue is it specifically, not like sec units in general, Murderbot specifically.
Yeah.
I think if I'd been a normal bot or even in like a normal sec unit, just off inventory, naive and not knowing anything about how to get along in the human world or whatever, like the way humans would write it for the media, basically it would have been okay. But I wasn't like that. I was me, Murderbot. So instead of Mensa having a poor pet bot like Mickey or a sad bot human construct that needed someone to help it, she had me.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, I was having some trans thoughts about.
Do tell.
So I'm a butch trans femme.
Mm-hmm.
I present very masc. I don't adjust my voice a lot. I, occasionally will dress femme, but not always. And I know for a fact that like bothers cis people.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is not palatable to them. I know for a fact that like that leaves them struggling to be like, but are you really a woman? And I'm like, well, first of all, you're not nearly at the right level of queerness to understand the answer to that question. But it's it's really, really obvious when cis people look at you and don't fully see you as your gender.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's something I can tell basically within seconds of talking to someone.
Yeah.
And even people who like profess to be like friendly or accepting, like it's really obvious. And and I'm not the only one. I hang out with a lot of trans people who are non-binary, who might not have changed anything about their presentation, or who might change one thing, or who change a couple of things and then don't change the pronouns or name that they use at work, but they change it everywhere else. Like, and it bothers cis people, and especially cishet people, to no end.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, that they can't figure out how to categorize us nice and neatly. We are not the way, even the liberal accepting cis folks who have done some basic education on trans folks, they don't know what to make of us.
Mm-hmm.
And fuck, even other queer people too. So yeah, this was definitely a, like, to me, it was they understand the basic concept of what it means to be non-binary, but they're not actually understanding. And that's, fair. It's real. Some of this shit that goes on in our brains is hard to understand if you can't experience it.
Mm-hmm.
And yet,
To steal a line from the book after Murderbot says the thing about, she had me. Dr. Bardwaj is responding to that. I wish I thought you were wrong. Same sentiment.
yeah. But we get a further flashback to talk about Amina.
Yes. Oh, Amina, I love you so much. And your toxic older boyfriend.
She's trying to have an illicit rendezvous with a boy she thinks is her age, but he's actually a 30-year-old man.
Yeah, and he is just Murderbot has a full dossier on this man. It is listing all of the things. You know, he said that his age was comparable to hers, which is just below the legal, local standard for adult. But he never talks to her when her friends or family are around. He gets her to take intoxicants that he himself doesn't take. He's like listing step by step every single thing, saying,
Yeah, he stared at her secondary sexual characteristics when her attention was elsewhere. A physical scan and his publicly available dossier, it said that he was 12 preservation standard years older than what he had told her.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had a bad feeling about the little shit.
Yeah. And so, this man tries to lure Amina out to some secluded place to meet some friends, quote unquote, who are not there. And he's obviously trying to get her drunk and probably take advantage of her. So Murderbot does the "where have you been, young lady?" They walk into the house,
Bond spy shit. Yeah.
Turn on the light, and it's just standing there in the middle of the room.
He screamed. Yes, it was hilarious.
It sends the guy packing. He runs away. And Amina is fucking pissed. Which, if I was her, I would be pissed too. Because
she... Go for it.
Well, she didn't know that Murderbot was watching her, first of all. And she makes a fair argument that, in her words, I don't fuck around. She said, I can take care of myself. I have access to the feed if I needed to call for help. I think that I can reasonably assess a situation. He wasn't going to get me to do anything I didn't want to do. I'm just a teen and I wanted to hook up with this older guy. Sue me.
Yeah, she basically was like, yeah, I was aware he wasn't telling me everything. Yeah. I didn't give a shit.
Yeah, like, I'm not stupid. I just wanted to do this for fun and me time. And you're not going to tell my parents, right? But luckily, if there's one thing Murderbot understands, it is proprietary data.
Which is such a good way of describing that. I love that so much.
Yeah. But it was such a fun... I mean, I feel bad for Amina, but it was a really fun insight into her personality. She's definitely Mensa's daughter, with just the ultimate confidence, pulling it together very quickly. She's still a teen and she's still seething, but she's definitely trying to channel some of that authority and saying, no, I know what I'm doing. You're the one who's being unreasonable. It's just, I love her. Unfortunately, this does not do a whole lot for her rapport with Murderbot, and so she's not thrilled to be stuck on a survey with it.
No, and because at the end when they're sort of having this argument, I think they're having two separate conversations.
Mm-hmm.
She thinks it's chastising her for going out and, being a teen.
Mm-hmm.
She thinks it's basically being like, you're too young to do this, you don't know what you're doing. And it's like, no, you're just not being careful enough.
Yeah, and it's saying, this might have been a perfectly fine decision for you to make a year ago. Preservation is a very safe place. All the stuff you said about how you have the feed and you're smart, all of that stuff is true. And in the past, that might have been enough. But now things have changed. Your mother is a planetary leader. I don't think Amina knows that she was kidnapped, but, Murderbot says, the threat to her safety, and by extension, your safety, is now very high because of things that have happened. And so you just have to be more careful. It's the reality of your situation. This is a strange man you didn't know, who found you in a crowded place and got you alone to a secondary location. That's just not the kind of thing that you can afford to do.
And also, we learn here, and it's not telling Amina about this, obviously, but we learn that Mensa also was the victim of an attempted assassination by Grey Chris. Grey Chris sent agents to kill her actively on Preservation.
Yeah.
Which is not a story we have quite yet. The other piece from this, which I want to discuss a little more in a bit, is the way Amina refers to Mensa.
Do you want to just do that now, or did you have things to interweave with that.
Fuck it. Yeah, let's do second mom.
Yeah, we need to talk about second mom. I think that you have a lot more to say on this than I do. So maybe I'll just say my quick piece about second mom and then just set you free.
By all means.
So, as we know, I work in childcare. I interact with a lot of families. I interact with more families with children than the average person probably does. I interact with a great proportion of those are queer families. No one, no one says second mom. No one numbers their parent. That is simply not a thing. There is one family that I know who has mugs that say dad number 1 and dad number 2 as a joke. It just says those on the mugs, and those words have never crossed their lips. That is simply not a thing that anyone in any queer family would say. So,
No.
Martha, as much as we give you credit for having shocking insight into queer experiences, you fumbled this one. You fumbled it so bad.
Yeah, and just, the queer normative world, incredible. I have many, many questions. The halfway decent in-universe explanation that I can come up with for this is that they are not actually speaking the same language.
Ooh, that's spicy.
We've mentioned that, like, there's translations happening, and maybe Murderbot technically speaks a corporation standard language, and Amina's speaking a preservation language. And whatever term she uses for Mensa, the corporate language translates it as second mom. That is the only possible, I feel like, in-universe explanation that makes sense.
That is a very clever one.
But unfortunately, that's not implied by the text at all.
Yeah.
Whenever Murderbot talks about, like, facility systems or hub system rendering translations, it does not mention that it's doing anything different from preservation.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, like, that one doesn't really hold water. We've talked about this before between ourselves. First of all, how would you raise a child to call someone second mom? One, it's not convenient to say. Two, babies can't say that. The reason most languages around the world, the word for mother is, mama, ama, abba. It's those are easy words, like easy sounds for a baby to make.
With my sapphic families, it's been like mom and mommy, mommy and mama, or they'll have some other silly made up baby name that they call one of the parents.
I also have questions about reproduction. What are the implications for biology? What does this mean to call someone second mom? Does that mean Farai is first mom? Or is Farai just mom? What does Amina call Tano? Who does this imply? This sort of implies that, like, maybe Farai was the one that carried Amina. We also don't know shit about Tano's biology. We also actually technically don't know shit about Farai or Mensa's biology. There is nothing in the text that says they're cis. Literally nothing. Who contributed to the kids' biology? Who carried the other kids? Did all three contribute? We have a line way back in All Systems Red about the secondary donor for her implanted baby.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes, the colony solicitor, the secondary donor for the colony solicitor's implanted baby, is that
yes,
it?
The colony solicitor killed or was framed for killing the terraforming supervisor who was the secondary donor for her implanted baby.
Right. So is there a primary donor? Like, what does that all mean? Do we have to have, quote unquote, naturally produced complementary gametes? Do we have to have a sperm and an egg cell that were, produced from ovaries and testes? Like, is that how we're creating humans in this world? Can we induce meiosis from stem cells or somatic cells to produce the gametes we want, regardless of the biology? or, the gamete production of the other partners. What does IVF look like in Prezox? We know that there's one kid who looks almost exactly like Mensa, who doesn't even have a name. We know that Amina shares some resemblance to Mensa. I think that's mentioned at some point. There's also the other piece, our thoughts of being second mom. Is Mensa second mom to all the kids? It also, it sort of suggests that Mensa is not the birthing parent, but also Amina is expressly referred to as Mensa's offspring, which is a term that suggests a biological relation. And Murderbot is nothing if not super fucking literal all the time. So what does this mean? So, are all 7 kids biologically Mensa and Tano and Farais, or some combination thereof? Are some adopted? What does this all, obviously we know Murderbot doesn't give a single flying fuck about their family structure.
Mm-hmm.
However, as previously established, we do.
Also, 7 kids is a lot. Even if you have 3 parents and a wonderful supportive community and all the resources you need, holy shit, 7 kids.
I mean, I guess technically speaking, we're not 100% sure that all 7 are theirs. We know from All Systems Red, we know that Mensa had several kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that she lives on a farm with her sister and brother and Tano and Farai and all of their kids and partners.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we know. So we don't necessarily know that the 7 kids that Murderbot refers to are what they all Mensa and Tano and Farai's, or are they Mensa and Tano and Farai's plus several cousins?
That also makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So we don't know what the whole family structure looks like, again, because Murderbot doesn't give a shit. Other pieces, what's everyone's surname? I wonder, because,
do they have those
Ida,
on preservation?
Well, because Ida Mensa is her full name, but everyone else seems to call, I don't know if anybody actually calls her Mensa to her face. I don't know if that ever happens. I feel like in the short story we read the other week, I feel like she was called Ida.
Yeah, I think so.
But everyone else gets referred to, because we have Dr. Mensa, but then we also have Dr. Tiago, Dr. Ratti, Dr. Oversay, Dr. Arata. But we know that they expressly get referred to by those names. Mm-hmm. So, are those first names? Are those surnames? Are those some sort of cult? We don't know naming conventions in preservation either.
Yeah.
Again, whole questions about family and how it all comes together in preservation. Anyway, that's the end of my second mom rant. We'll get more on this later.
Yes, we will. Speaking of Mensa, I would love to transition to her conversation with Murderbot after it extracts her from her panic attack episode, because I have a lot to say about it. I wrote a lot of notes. So, I guess I want to start with the parallels between what Mensa and Murderbot both need in order to heal from their various traumas and experiences, and how those things are connected. So we know from this book, and also just from past context in the books in general, that they are both refusing trauma treatments. Murderbot has been, just in general, and specifically on the page in this book, after it gets healed in the med bay, it says the med system tried to cycle into the therapy and post-treatment options, and I stopped it and climbed off the platform. But they both have really different reasons for not pursuing the options that are currently available to them. So Mensa is afraid of feeling weak and afraid of facing the reality of what's happened to her. So there's just the general fear of reliving those scary experiences, and also the existential threat to her personality. She's a planetary leader. She has to be calm. She has to be collected for everyone at all times. She's a mom. She has to keep her shit under control, and not being under control is very scary for her. And she is using being a workaholic, being a planetary leader, as an excuse to just never make time in her schedule, never explicitly explain that she hasn't gotten trauma treatment. She'll let people believe that she has, because that's convenient. But then also, because she's a planetary leader, if word of the assassination attempts and the kidnapping gets out, that then could put a lot of people in more danger. I didn't write down specifically the way that Murderbot explains it, but there was something about like preservation specifically deliberately kept the whole kidnapping hush hush, and there was a reason for it, that like if it got out it would be very bad.
Mm-hmm.
But for Mensa, ultimately they refer to it as the trauma treatment, as if it's one discrete thing. It's a series of appointments, but it's one program. We can call it therapy, we can call it the trauma treatment. The book calls it the trauma treatment. For her, that is what she needs. No amount of love and support from her friends and family or protection from Murderbot is going to solve her underlying problem. And we have no reason not to believe that the treatment will help her. It is made by humans for humans. Preservation is very good at helping people. This seems like something that she needs to do, but she needs to kind of get out of her own way. And her current state is so bad that even Murderbot is asking her what's wrong, which is, that it's gotten really bad when Murderbot is like hyping itself up to be like, okay, humans ask each other how they're doing all the time. I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah, I think there is, I suppose, another concern, because she does mention that like nobody else in preservation really has experience with the Corporation Rim.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can see how she'd even sort of extrapolate that like feeling out towards, perhaps the therapists who work in trauma recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Being like, even they can't help me because they have no experience with the Corporation Rim.
Yeah, and I think that that's really fair. I mean, just connecting it to my own unrelated experience, but just, neurons connecting in my brain. We're queer. I'm queer. One of the reasons that I really didn't vibe with my last therapist was because she was straight and cis. And I was like, I really need someone who can understand me on this level in order to feel like I'm being helped. So like, yeah, I think if there's like a central aspect of your experience of the world that your therapist can't understand, like, I think it's reasonable to assume they might not be able to help you in the way that you need.
I have had a lot of therapists in my life, and my current one is also a queer, non-binary relationship anarchist, and they're the best goddamn therapist I've ever had.
We love you. If they have any clones, one of our dear friends is a therapist, and I'm like, God damn it, I wish that there was just another one of you that could be my therapist without a conflict of interest. I just need you, copy and paste it into someone else. But yeah, so that's sort of Mensa's situation. And then we've got Murderbot, who likes to avoid feelings. We know this.
Mm-hmm.
But also, as we've established in the other books, human-centered emotional approaches are completely unhelpful to it. So in the same way that Mensa needs someone who understands the Corporation Rim, no human trauma protocol is going to be helpful to SecUnit. That is just operating on a completely different set of parameters.
And also, though, it also refuses to try because it wants to hold itself completely separate from humans and think that it has nothing in common.
Well, yeah, that's the avoiding feelings part. It is
right.
Avoiding the reality that maybe I do have something in common with humans. Maybe there is something that I could get out of this, but I'm not going to touch that feeling with a 10-foot pole. But it is getting something out of talking to Bharadwaj and helping her with her documentary. And it's in one of those conversations where it's helping her with her research. In one of those conversations, they're talking about why Tiago doesn't like it. And Murderbot saying, it's not a fear of SecUnits, it's me. And Bharadwaj saying, yeah, I think you're probably right. It is getting a therapeutic benefit from those conversations. And it knows that, and Bharadwaj knows that. And I think out of respect for Murderbot's feelings of dignity, they're just not going to explicitly acknowledge it. They're just going to keep doing what works for them. But it is finding a way to make things work. And so then thinking about both of them together, and this is where it gets juicy and fascinating. to me anyways, is
Please.
Mensa's dependence on Murderbot and the way that she talks about it in this scene. I went through several phases of reactions to it on this reread. The first thing I thought was, wow, I've never seen a scene like this with somebody going, I think I'm too emotionally dependent on you and it's not fair to you. Like, this sounds very weird and healthy. Specifically what she says, and it's good to just have this quote for context. I hate feeling so weak. I just need to stop. And I need to stop leaning on you. It's not fair to you. We need to be apart so I can stand on my own feet again. I didn't think she was wrong, but I still wasn't used to things that were unfair to me being a major point of consideration for humans. It also sounded vaguely like the breakup part of the romance scenes on shows I watched, most of which I usually skimmed over. I said, it's not me, it's you. And that is very, very funny. And then also clicked in my brain to think, oh, actually, there are tons of scenes like this, especially as a known monster fucker who reads a lot of paranormal romance or romances with a significant power discrepancy between the two parties, where one of them is much older, one of them's a billionaire, one of them's immortal, one of them's a dragon. Like, who cares? There's like some crazy difference between them. There is, and really honestly, I think the easiest touch point for this is Twilight, because that's a major plot point, but it illustrates it very well. And usually the way that that dynamic plays out is that it's always the more powerful party. So the vampire, the dragon, the billionaire, whatever, saying something like, I'm a monster, I'm corrupting you, I'm too dependent on your pure innocence and you should live without me because it's better for you. I know best and I can decide the way that you should live your life. And then the less powerful party making a sad face and going, fuck you, I can make my own choices, I choose to be with you. Honestly, Amina trying to chase her older boyfriend, like, no, I choose this older boyfriend. I'm allowed to make this choice. I have free will. But this is a situation where that dynamic is flipped, because Mensa is the one who's looking out for Murderbot. And instead of in like your Twilight situation where that whole, I'm a monster, you could never love me, that's a mindfuck to make the person more emotionally dependent on them. And then it's just a whole whirlwind of shit. This is not that. She's right. It is unfair. And Murderbot agrees, because again, in these like, more typical power dynamic breakup scenes, there's always like a, no, you're wrong, you don't understand, I do love you. Murderbot's going, no, you are correct, this is unfair to me, and I still care about you, but I recognize that this is not helping you, it's putting me in a weird position. I've never seen a scene play out that way before.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's my rant. It's really fascinating.
No, it's a good one. I like it. I do question, though, is Mensa actually the less powerful one here?
Well, she is Murderbot's owner. I'm just thinking more in terms of like, Murderbot has guns in its arms. But, I mean, we have spent a lot of previous episodes talking about the fact that she does have very real power over Murderbot, despite her good intentions and despite how she's trying to get that changed. That is also a very good point. I think I was thinking more on like the human, non-human axis. But yes, you are also very correct.
But but in this case, even though like Murderbot is physically more powerful, but that doesn't mean that like Mensa isn't also powerful, fits the like high-powered executive, but still tortured. But yeah, I feel like a lot of those scenes are sometimes even the non-human going, you're too dependent on me and I can't allow that because you should live your own life. And Mensa here being like, no, actually, like, I'm dependent on you. That's the issue. No, you're absolutely right. It's a really interesting adaptation of that trope.
And I do love that Murderbot just puts the little button on it with the little twist. It's not me, it's you. That's cute.
I also I also like the acknowledgement of this sort of non-normative relationship being like, yes, this sounds like romance,
Mhm.
but it's explicitly not.
Yeah.
There are still intense feelings about this relationship, but this isn't a romantic relationship. But that doesn't mean that the intense feelings around this relationship are any less real or affect the people in it any differently.
It reminds me of all the stuff that we said about the rapport short story in the short stories episode, which if you haven't listened, go back and listen. That's a very fun one. But,
Mhm.
Talking about using the emotional beats and the expected conversational flow, things that we would see in a romantic dynamic, helping to sort of, because there's like two aspects to it, and I'm just trying to galaxy brain explain thoughts on relationships as they're occurring to me. And it'll come out as clearly as it comes out. It's fine, whatever. I edit this podcast, I'll make myself sound smart. But there's like two parts of that I'm now thinking about, right? The first being, in a platonic relationship, you can still feel these same feelings. Like, it's not necessarily that there is a romantic flavor and a platonic flavor of codependence. It's just all the same, and breaking down that artificial distinction is a helpful exercise. But then also using the familiar structure of like a romantic breakup scene also helps translate those feelings a little bit. If you maybe haven't spent a lot of time reflecting on the deep and profound nature of platonic relationships, being able to see, oh, this is similar to a dynamic that I'm used to seeing. This is a touch point that I can understand. Now that I see this SecUnit client relationship kind of contrasted with a romantic relationship, it makes it easier for me as a reader to understand the depth and intensity of what's going on here, even though it's not the same. I think it's very skillfully done, and I like it a lot.
Yes. Listen, Martha Wells hits honestly more often than she misses.
Yeah, and I mean, the second mom thing, we're never going to let that go, but nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
She doesn't have some queer person tied up in her basement that she's torturing information out of.
Although I'm sure you could find one that would be into that.
I'm sure.
And on that note, do we want to hit chapter 3?
Yes, I don't have a hell of a lot to say about chapter 3.
No,
it
same.
brings us back into the present in the timeline, because lest we forget, all of that shit was a flashback. That whole chapter was basically a flashback.
Mm-hmm.
Rati tries to give Murderbot a pep talk, which is very cute. Oversay thanks it for helping her wifey feel confident. Then a potential hostile appears. There's shots fired. There's ship-to-ship combat. There's a boarding attempt imminent. The comms and feed are down. There's general chaos. No one can find Amina. And there's another person. Conti, is that their name?
Conti, I think, yeah.
And that's bad, because there's a ticking clock before another part of the facility jettisons away. Murderbot to the rescue, but not quite in time. And then it's stuck on the wrong side of a hatch with Amina and Conti, and they all get evac suits and have to go out the airlock.
Conti gets away, I think, but
Conti gets away? I thought it was
Conti gets away. I just read it.
Oh yeah, no, she does. She gets through the hatch, and then it's just Murderbot and Amina. I was not clear what part of the facility was where, and like where they are located at the end of the chapter.
Yeah, so that I got.
Okay.
So the facility itself is capable of getting into orbit.
Mm-hmm.
That's the research facility that was on the ocean planet with the Murderbot's Murderboat. But it is not wormhole drive capable. It requires a base ship.
Mm-hmm.
And the base ship itself is relatively small, but mostly is made to like carry things like the facility. So it's attached to the facility, which gets shot with a tracking missile, and then the hostile ship locks onto the facility, probably because it's like the larger section of this combined facility base ship pairing. And that's where the boarding attempt is taking place. But there may be other, there's always the possibility that they send, a secondary boarding party in evac suits around to another hatch or whatever. So because the base ship is small and kind of just has like warp drive, basic crew quarters for its 5-person crew, and like the area to clamp on and hold the facility, like most of the people from the survey team are in the facility.
Mm-hmm.
At which point, when the hostile clamps on, Murderbot's like, get everybody into the main ship, into the base ship, and jettison the facility. And hopefully the hostile ship will carry the facility off because they're getting dragged back towards the wormhole.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully the hostile ship will just take the facility and we can escape the base ship.
Yeah.
Which like will be crowded for the next hour and a half until we get picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything will be fine. But, there was an issue with the base ship can't manually jettison the facility. So they set a countdown from facility control. And then they're holding it from the other side and people are getting up. The artificial gravity is different in the facility than it is in the base ship. And that's where the gravity well section comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Murderbot sends everybody else out and is just in the facility with Amina when it realizes that the facility's been breached and there's hostiles on board, at which point it tells Oversay and Arata to shut and jettison the facility now.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course, Arata and Oversay do and don't, because then they go and get in a safe pod rather than on the base ship, which is like an escape pod type thing, I guess. And then Murderbot and Amina have to get into evac suits and hopefully escape out the airlock to get picked up by the base ship's tractor beam. It's setting up mysteries. We don't know who the hostile ship is. We don't know what the motivation is. We don't know what the fuck is going on. And Sam and I are very excited about it.
I'm doing little evil tappy fingers because I know, listeners.
Yeah, well, of course. We've read the whole novel. And, who knows? Maybe our listeners have at this point and you know exactly what's going on. One other thing that we do learn, just again, in universe things, is we learn there seems to be a difference between the feed, the secured feed, and the comm. Mm-hmm. Those are 3 separate methods of communication.
Yeah. I think the comm is like talking with your actual voice, like we're talking, like walkie-talkie style. And then the feed is unclear if it's text or audio format. I know that there's sub-vocalizations that humans use to control it, and there's talk about like a feed voice versus your real voice, so maybe it's audio. Unclear. The feed seems to cover a lot.
It seems to be sort of audio visual type thing, and I assume there's like a little like earring thing that you flip down in front of your eyes or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a book growing up that my parents gave me back when I was obsessed with the show on the science behind Battlestar Galactica. And your spouse and I were both very obsessed with Battlestar Galactica for many, many years. But one of the things that they mention in the book is they talk about different ways to do sci-fi and explain your sci-fi world.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the sort of better ways is to leave things really open-ended. And so there's never really a way to like be like, no, wait, there's no way that could do that. That defies the rules of physics or science in this way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you never quite define exactly what it is, but like make it clear kind of what it can do, then you have sort of a strong... There are certain things that like you need to define. And then there's other things where you can kind of let it be that slight ambiguity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Martha Wells is doing here. Yeah.
The feed is whatever you need it to be.
I see you have one other line in your notes, but I'm done. So
yeah, I mean, the last thing was just sort of a quick observation because, like we said, this chapter is very action-packed. But we do get a little bit more about Murderbot's aversion to logos, which all the way back in Exit Strategy, you may recall, we learned that it has the company logo permanently etched onto its inorganic parts. It has a bad relationship with logos. And it's to the point where it almost doesn't put on a deflection vest for its own safety because it has a logo on it. It does eventually get out of its own way and do that, but that was just another little persistent trauma, persistent issues that Murderbot's dealing with, even in the midst of this life-threatening situation. Saying, oh, but it has a logo on it. But yeah, other than that, Chapter 3 is really just a setup. It's a cliffhanger. And I am very, very excited to keep going with this book. It's a really fun one.
So that was a lot.
That was just the first 3 chapters, gang.
Yeah, and there are chapters in this book that, like, I kind of read through and was like, okay, did anything happen?
Mm-hmm.
The pacing of this book is a little rough at times, but I do really enjoy how much we get to learn about Murderbot's personality and its relationships with all these individual characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited to go through the rest of this. So if you would like to come along with us for the rest of Network Effect and see whatever the fuck is on the other side of the wormhole and whoever the fuck these hostiles are, you can subscribe to our podcast. You will get notified when we drop episodes. We drop episodes every 2 weeks, every other Tuesday. And in the meantime, you are more than welcome to follow our social media. We are at FanappPod, FANAPPPOD, on any social media site we are on. Our most active are Tumblr and Insta, for a relative value of most active. You can always send us an email if you have things you'd like us to see quicker at thefandomapprentice@gmail.com. That I do actually check every day, as opposed to our social media, which I check irregularly.
If we have inspired you to read these books or any previous media that we've covered, it would be immensely gratifying. It would make our entire week, probably our entire month, to know that we had gotten someone into some new media. So if this show has inspired you to get into Murderbot or Lord of the Rings or to get another friend on board, please tell us. That would make us very happy.
Or watch K-pop Demon Hunters, or
Please
read the
K-pop
Romantices.
It's on Netflix.
My God. Or read the Romantices that we read. Yeah, we would absolutely love to know. If you would like a book recommendation, if you would like some music recs, hit us up.
Yeah.
We're so down.
If you want the most batshit vegetable shifter romances, I got you.
Yeah, Sam reads some slightly more batshit stuff than I do, but
I'm normal. Thumbs up. I'm very well adjusted.
Normal's just a setting on a washing machine, bestie.
Oh my God.
To quote 2013 Tumblr.
Labels are for soup cans. Why soup?
Okay, my darling soup cans.
Okay. We're losing the plot, my soups.
It's late. And we love you very dearly, and we will see you next time for, God, what's the chapter breakdown? I feel like we should say that now.
You are the one who came up with it, so.
I know. I'm looking for it now. I believe next time we are planning to cover chapters 4 through 7. We're planning on breaking this up into 4 episodes. So this was chapters 1 through 3. We're planning 4 through 7 next time, 8 through 13, and then 14 to the end. So if you are planning on reading along with the podcast, that is your reading schedule. I'll post that on our social media as well. Enjoy. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
The Phantom Apprentice is produced and edited by Ryn and Sam. Our music is composed and performed by James. You can find more of his work on Spotify and Bandcamp under Beiruz, Baeruz. Our art is by Casey Turgeon. You can find more of her work at KCT Designs on Instagram. The content discussed is the property of the original copyright holders and is used here under fair use.